can just walk through the outline. We wait for Dan to get his headphones connected. Okay, we're all familiar with the speech, "I am haunted by waters." Ross, have you seen this movie? Seems like, oh yeah, you've seen it.
I've seen the movie, yes.
Oh, here's Dan.
Hello.
Greetings. Ross is here. Ross is here too. We can hear you. Colton, hello.
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going, Dan?
Hi.
Okay, and you remember Matt.
Oh, good.
So Matt and Ross are
Of
here.
course. Just never seen y'all face in person.
You've met them in person.
Of course I have.
It's been a few years.
We'll wait for you to get settled. Dan's skinny now. You might not
Ross
recognize.
Dan, I want to compliment you on your 100-mile run.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That.
I've
It
told
was
like
a
6 people about
challenge.
that.
Why wasn't it 7?
I mean, it wasn't that much of a challenge. It's only 100 miles.
Man, next 200 miles will get 8 people that you'll have to tell.
That's right.
I don't know if I'll ever do that, though.
This is more fun. Who would win in a half marathon between you and Mike?
Ooh,
Oh, Michael.
Right now.
Mike.
Right now. This day. Okay.
You mean right now at 9 p.m.?
Who would win?
Who would win a
Who's
50-mile
faster?
race?
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Shut up.
Who would win a 50-mile race right now?
I mean, if Michael, like right now, this moment,
Mm-hmm.
This second.
I
yeah.
might win. I don't know,
Wow,
Michael.
confidence. I
What do you
believe
think?
it.
What do you think, Mike?
I'd say Dan would probably. I'd say 2 to 1 odds. I'd put on Dan for a 50-mile race.
50.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think so. I know how to pace it out.
That's right. Yeah.
And the nutrition.
Well, before we get too lost in the weeds here of nutrition and fueling on ultras, let me just introduce the introducer for tonight. We got Dan Schaefer. If you recognize that last name, it's because me and him have the same one. That's right, brothers. And the Speeches by Brothers episode. So Dan is 6 years older than me, an ultra marathoner. Oh, and he, of course, introduced the episode that George W. Bush
9/11.
speech from, I don't think that was last season. I think that was season before.
Yeah, it was a couple years ago.
But a husband, a father, 3 kids of his own, and ultra marathoner, of course. So me and him just completed the KD82 race. For any listeners out there who know of that race, there might be some. I guess Dad knows about it. He listens. So team of 6
For that
of
listener out there who knows about the race.
us. Team of 6 of us did 82
What a
mile
connection.
race, and it was a lot of fun. So Dan, I told you that we were doing a speech from A River Runs Through It, and as I'll explain later, I definitely remember watching it when we were kids, getting it from Mr. Video.
Mhm.
Is that your earliest recollection?
Yeah, I'm sure that's where we got it from. Classic. Definitely hits the emotional strings on that one, and just kind of watching that clip that you sent, the music in the background, listening to the river, definitely tugs on you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, I think, themes to that sort of feel familiar. I mean, and we'll talk about later the significance of shared hobbies and that sort of being a conduit for brotherhood. So of course ours being endurance sports, running, bicycling. And now I think about, I mean, canoeing, right? Water being in this story. Why do you want to share just any memories of being brothers growing up? And then we'll come back to the thoughts about the movie.
Nope, not one. I mean, I remember me picking on you to a certain degree. I remember wedgies. I remember. I mean, just kind of you tagging along. I mean, later in your life, whenever I was getting older and in college, you spent a decent amount of time with me, helping cutting lawns. I mean, we spent a lot of time together, memorable moments, canoeing and doing some of these outdoor activities together. I think, the age difference was more significant earlier in our life. And then, but then as we got older, we were able to connect as you built endurance strength and we were able to connect on these outdoor activities that we did on our own or dad pulled us into. You, I think, loved it from every moment, from beginning to end, and I loved it at spots, but then the love of the memories and thinking back to those connections and brother times and dad sons, very good memories, of course.
So I mean, there's an element of this film that has to do with parents' roles, a father's role in fostering brotherhood. You can go as heavy or as light as you want with this one, but with you being a father and you obviously having kids, particularly two of them brothers, are there any sort of nudges as a parent or sort of directions you want to give to Colton and Beckett's brotherhood, or just brother and sisterhood between Colton and Addie? Anything in that broad category do you want to sort of help nudge and guide?
Yeah, and kind of going backwards a little bit. I think I've mentioned to you that I wish I was more there for you as an older brother as you were going through more of your developmental times. Through high school, I was out at college, and I was thinking fairly selfishly. Wasn't there for you at times when, looking back, I wish I was there for you, and you were kind of an only child at times. Whenever I was in college, and even once I moved out and kind of started the next chapter with wife and stuff. Definitely wish I would have been more available, I guess, for you. And then for my kids, something I repeat to them quite often, and it's something that I wish they could kind of take in and kind of live, is that the world's tough out there, on everybody. And brothers, sisters are always gonna constantly get on each other about this or that. But one thing I wish I want them to hear, and pass on to their kids, is that family's got to be your cheerleaders. They got to be the ones that brings you up, not pushes you down. And just be that support for each other.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Matt, Ross, any questions for Dan about me growing up, about where me and Dan's hair went?
Who had the best hair at their peak?
Oh, that's
the guy's peak hair
fullness.
Michael had a squirrel's nest. Like, whenever you need your hair to look its best, like going into high school. I mean, I swear there was a family of squirrels living in that hair. Uncontrollable. Yeah, it was pretty wild. You should see, like, I would say its hair at its best, and not best as in this description of a squirrel's nest, is Lauren, our sister Lauren and brother-in-law Joe's wedding photo. I mean, it had a stratosphere. It had a whatever's beyond stratosphere.
Ozone layer.
Had its own gravitational pull. And not really on purpose. It's just kind of the hair was of its own world.
Yeah,
And I had the blonde tips and the hoop earrings, and I was the child of I was high school, late 90s. So that's when Sugar Ray was out there. He had the blonde tips. It was the generation of Abercrombie and Fitch.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll say more of these things on the podcast, but just to say them while you're here, and I know you'll listen, of course, later. So, but still hearing it live, even though your commitment to endurance sports was spotty, as you said, despite that, you're taking those things on first, particularly with bicycling. Obviously led to something quite substantial and significant with Biking for Babies. I like to tell people that now. Biking for Babies probably wouldn't exist if Dan, my brother Dan, had not become a cyclist. So pretty neat thing there. Okay, any other thoughts you want to tack on as far as the film itself, the speech itself goes? It seems like it'd be a good one to watch with family this weekend if you guys.
That was definitely something I was thinking. I definitely want to watch it with the kids, but at the end of the speech, whenever he said the water is haunting, that was pretty cool. I felt like it was kind of an obsession, and an obsession can be good or bad, but it does pull on you, and for me, that there is a certain draw to be outdoors, and that like you have to be there, that you have to spend a certain percentage of your life. Me has to be outdoors, otherwise I don't feel like the complete person I am. And same thing with running at this point in my life. Like running is haunting sometimes, and like the need to run an ultra marathon type of all the good chemicals running through the body, the dopamine chase, the serotonin. So the goods in life, they can be an addiction, and for him, being on that water was that addiction. Thinking about the movie and the role of the two brothers. One was kind of the rowdy guy, didn't want to follow the rules, and then the other guy who was more straight-laced and kind of followed directions by the parents. That's where me and Michael were. I was more of the rowdy child and didn't want to listen to my parents, and Michael's never broken a rule in his life. So I was the one that died in the movie. Story of how the river runs through it. So that was kind of the two big things I was thinking.
Great. And what's your next race? What waters will you be haunting next?
I need to pick one for the fall. I don't have one picked yet. It's got to fit into the schedule. So, I mean, it is that fact that, yes, I have to run at least a 50-mile race in the fall. I don't have one picked one out. Like me and Eric, we've talked about just creating our own, and, a certain amount of people might come out and run the whole thing with us, or, run certain sections type thing, in order to fulfill the need of running an ultra, but then also being available for whatever the family's calendar looks like, So that's the next race. But I got, obviously we got St. Jude. I'm running the St. Jude Marathon in December, and then some other 10Ks, 5Ks in between.
Okay.
That's the race calendar.
Sounds good. Let me add that you look like a natural podcaster, a natural Joe Rogan with your bald head and beard and headphones.
Joe Rogan. Yeah.
That's it.
And cool. Well, excellent. Okay. Well, if you got nothing else to add, then we'll get to business with you doing the formal introduction.
Well, tonight we have the speech guys, Ross, Matt, Mike. The speech series is Speeches by Brothers. I'm the brother of Mike, and the speech name is I Am Haunted by Water. I don't remember who it's by.
Norman Maclean.
By Norman Maclean. Got it.
Okay.
There you go.
Do you want to try that one more time, a little more less mechanical, or do you want to go with that?
Yeah, I'll try it one more time. Less mechanical.
Okay. Take two.
I liked it.
Action.
All right. Tonight we got the speech guys, Mike, Matt, and Ross. The speech series is Speeches by Brothers, and the name is I Am Haunted by Water. By Ron McLean.
That's right. Norman's lost brother. Okay, well, thanks very much, Dan. Great intro. Love it and appreciate it.
Cue the music.
Love you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Tonight is all four members on the call. Michael Schaefer, Ross Johnson, Matt Schultz, and Landon Fry are all here.
Free.
From every direction.
What you were gonna be like, I met you on this podcast. It was our first podcast.
It'll give you perspective. I've been back and forth.
Stories and heroes and things, and I'm like, okay, this is like a situation where heroes will emerge in some way, shape, or form.
It goes every direction.
So you guys asked if I prepped for tonight's podcast. I've created what I call the bridge.
When the times we fell. Oh, I've been afraid some days.
That music just brings back fond memories of, the look on their face. When they played that song, they went back in time.
You guys look a lot alike.
In our facial structure, our bones, our nicely carved jaws, although mine's a little sharper.
He's a little more Joe Rogan looking than you. I didn't hear me.
Definitely more Joe Rogan looking.
Okay. We ready?
We ready?
Okay, we're back. Speeches by Brothers. Like Dan said, I Am Haunted by Water by Norman Maclean. Okay, why don't we just go ahead and hop into the speech? And we'll talk about why I picked it and first reactions. So why don't we go ahead and play that clip?
Each one of us here today will, at one time in our lives, look upon a loved one who is in need and ask the same question. We are willing to help, Lord, but what, if anything, is needed? For it is true we can seldom help those closest to us. Either we don't know what part of ourselves to give, or more often than not, the part we have to give is not wanted. And so it is those we live with and should know who elude us. But we can still love them. We can love completely without complete understanding.
those I loved and did not understand in my youth are dead, even Jesse. But I still reach out to them. Of course, now I'm too old to be much of a fisherman. And now I usually fish the big waters alone, although some friends think I shouldn't. But when I am alone in the half-light of the canyon, all existence seems to fade to a being with my soul and memories, and the sounds of the big Blackfoot River and a 4-count rhythm, and the hope that a fish will rise. Eventually, all things merge into one, and a river runs through it. The river was cut by the world's great flood and runs over rocks from the basement of time. On some of the rocks are timeless raindrops. Under the rocks are the words, and some of the words are theirs. I am haunted by waters.
Whew. Okay. I don't know. I sort of half wrote why I picked it in a monologue form. I think I'm just going to ad lib based upon what I wrote here. Yeah. So, like I was talking about with Dan, why I picked it, I don't know if we rewatched a lot of movies growing up, but this is obviously, you guys can comment on this too, just as its own thing, because it's interesting. And I've read about other places, but how picking a movie, it wasn't just picking a movie. It was a broader experience, right? There was a discussion. Should we get a movie? Because that's an investment to go. Someone's going to go to the video store. Who's going to go? And then, going through the ordeal once you're there of what movie you're going to pick. So it's like every movie you watched growing up, like, carried a certain weight to it. Certain certain significance to everything you watched, I think. And so this, obviously would have been one of those movies. As I indicated, 1992 or 1993, wink, wink, it came out. So, I would have only been 3 or 4 years old at the time. And probably did not have much say in movies, nor influence. So this was probably one that mom and dad picked out that they thought would have been good for Lauren and Dan to watch. But I do definitely remember one scene, which was the scene where Paul tries to exert his will on Norman's sandwich making. He's like shoving his hand. He's putting anchovies on this ham sandwich. It's disgusting. And I just remember being grossed out by that when I was 4. Let's see. Rewatching it this past weekend, there were a number of scenes and qualities of things that felt familiar. 2 brothers exploring down by their creek or river. Me and Dan's was Kinney Creek, which began just north of Freeburg as a kind of drainage sort of canal. Kinney Creek runs for probably only like 4 or 5 miles into Richland Creek, which dumps into the Kaskaskia 20 miles south. Kaskaskia runs for about another 30 or 40 miles, at least the way a bird flies, into the Mississippi. Sort of like Dan was saying, a lot of my jaunts down to the creek were solo once Dan got older. Other interests, but those early trips with Dan and Lauren too were certainly important to those later ones, those later sort of solitary explorations, particularly with our dog Sarah. Discovering old glass medicine bottles, deer sheds, just wandering. The age difference in the film definitely resonated, felt familiar. Is big enough, to feel big, but close enough to have a certain number of shared experiences. The chase after fatherly pride resonated, particularly on that last scene with their aging father, and the father says, "You both." What did he say? You both caught great fish, something like that, which sort of like set an example of like, rather than like a competitive, an unhealthy competition for the father's attention, there's sort of like a pride. The father's pride sort of, seemed to like lift both of them up sort of together. And yeah, I mean that bit from that speech there, loving without understanding, there's, I'm sort of saying a new tone for the why I picked it, like sort of touching on the different areas we want to go in the podcast. So just putting that out there. But it's like with friends, you love your friends ideally unconditionally to a certain extent. What initially attracts you to each other is a certain like shared understanding of each other. Like, oh, we connect over this, right? We have a certain knowledge of how to navigate each other's souls because, shared faith. But, with a lot of families, of course, like the beliefs can vary wildly, and you can be left really perplexed and confused why certain family members do certain things. And yeah, I think that's a great and a very Christian sort of ethos that the Presbyterian pastor's dad sort of sets out as the emphasis on loving without understanding. Yeah, that touches on some few points sort of stuck out to me and why I picked it as it relates to personal experiences from growing up. Matt, Ross, any first reactions? Ross, we didn't know he was going to be here until an hour and a half ago, so we're glad to have him here. As usual, he's not going to podcast scared. He's probably going to have to podcast even less scared today in order to compensate. He's going to be all emotion. He's going to be crying.
I'm thinking my first react. I'm just going to go back to the very first time I ever watched the movie. You know how some things, like they say, like a mark of a movie is if you like keep thinking about it later. I don't know.
Yep.
But like it like stuck with me because I was like bothered by, I think mostly just Paul. That's his name, right? The guy that died. By Paul's death and like just the tragicness of it. So honestly, that was my very first reaction to seeing it. I was like, I don't remember the first time I watched it, but for me, it was a little bit of a transition. I feel like of like appreciating this is a really good movie, even though it doesn't like feel good, if that makes sense. Like there's so much, I feel like we watched a lot of not cheesy, but like feel good movies growing up, like a Secondhand Lions. I don't know, just that type of movie. Sure. So to watch a movie that was like tragic and not depressing, but just kind of sad in a way, but still being able to see like, oh, this is a good movie.
Sounds like you should rewatch Inside Llewyn Davis with this new attitude.
That was like the opposite in the sense that, yes, it stuck with me, but we're like, this movie was like
kind of the way like a glass shard sticks in your foot if you step on it.
A River Runs Through It was kind of like, man, like it hurts, but it's good. Inside Llewyn Davis, I was more like, I feel despair right now and just darkness all around me. And I couldn't, took me 3 days to shake it.
I mean, first overall impressions. So Claire watched most of the movie. She missed kind of a chunk in the middle because she went to bed. We broke it up 2 halves. She went to bed early the first night, but it was interesting getting her takeaways too. But honestly, the thing that I mean, I think just to me, just the charm of their certainly their childhood, but even their adult friendship was just just rather charming. I think just the whole aesthetic of the Montana Wilderness Creek sort of it just kind of was really well put together on that front. But in terms of like bigger themes, I think one, just the nature of fishing being this not only just like a shared interest, but it was a vessel of communion between each other, right? Between the brothers and certainly between them and their dad. And it's obviously Paul did stray far, right? You never quite felt that Paul was completely lost. Like there's always a way back or a tether or a trail of breadcrumbs, in the way of fishing. If he would stray in his orbit, he'd kind of orbit back.
Okay, looking at the first three discussion questions. Any other favorite scenes to comment on? What's the Montana of your youth? I'm sort of leaning towards that one. Any memories similar to the scene where Norman and his bro stole a boat and crashed it? I feel like we need to start flexing our wings a little bit. I think we should do what's the Montana of your youth. What was that Montana of youth for you guys and your brothers? What's the landscape, whether it's a big landscape or a smaller landscape that just had a unique capacity to sort of create opportunities for certain closeness, certain wildness, certain adventures?
Two things pop in my head. I don't know if this is exactly the answer, but I'm picturing the campground we would go to at Lake Shelbyville. So when we went on our last camping trip, you guys might remember I swung off just for a bit because I tried to drive through, because we went to Wolf Creek, but I tried to drive through Coon Creek when we camped at Lake Shelbyville, just because we had spent so much time there. It was like a weird, nostalgia, I wanted to see it. It was just like an interesting time of maybe, not exactly a big river in the mountainous area of Montana, but like a certain outdoor freedom in a way. So I remember we would camp at this campsite, and it was a buddy site. So there was like two sites like right next to each other. So us and this other family would go every year and just be right next to each other. And we'd always reserve the site because that's the one that we wanted. So my mom would literally get on, like you could reserve a campsite like a year in advance. So if we were going like July 1st, she'd get on the internet at like June 30th, the year before, at 11:55. So like at midnight, she could reserve the site for the next year. Because there was like a little walk, like you'd have to walk through the woods, and then you'd walk down like a little ways, and you'd get down like a cove of the lake, and we would just park our boat there. Like we'd drop it in a boat dock, but we would just beach it there, so we could just take it out whenever. And I don't know, I just remember like we'd walk through there, we'd fish, we'd just mess around in the water. And I remember very distinctly one time we took the boat out, and we had a very small fishing boat. It was the 4th of July weekend, and Lake Shelbyville on the 4th of July weekend gets some pretty big boats. And I 100% thought we were going to flip over. We had no idea what we were doing, just out in the middle of the lake. All these huge boats are just flying around. And I just remember thinking, like, at the time I was like 14, and I thought we were goners. Thought we were going to flip the boat and drown. But we take the boat out at night and do like night fishing and stuff. And it was just very kind of whimsically childlike and free.
Yeah, I've already talked about Kinney Creek, the creek. Our parents' property was 13 acres, still is 13 acres, same property. There's woods on either side. There's a little cemetery up in the corner, although it's this really cool. It's like this class.
Wait, there's a cemetery on your parents' property?
Well, here's a funny thing. Because Dan indicated I'm a rule follower. I know you'll argue this because you've seen me camp sometimes.
I was going to say, Dan, I don't think you know Mike very well.
My mom has never been to that cemetery. and it's the cool. Yeah, so it's not on our property, and we don't go there anymore because someone built a house that pretty close to it now. But yeah, it was in the woods between our house and our neighbors. But it was this cast iron fence, family cemetery in the middle of the woods, sunken graves, very weathered headstones, some flowers there that had no right to be in the woods that someone had planted there a long time ago. It's sort of the woods were big enough that it was sort of difficult to find. The last time I ever went out there, I think, was fall 2006 with my cross country team. I brought the team like through the woods in the dark, like we were looking for a runaway prisoner or something, like with our flashlights. One of the poor girls on our team, she had terrible eyesight, and she was, I'm sure, blind walking through those woods. And my mom was not happy that I took the team out there. But anyway, point is just another Montana of our youth there, that little cemetery. And but sort of maybe expand the perimeter of the question a little bit. Dan and I both, well, Dave Beaver, of course, was on the podcast not too long ago. Yeah, tossing hay bales for Dave, I think, has certain resonance with the idea of the Montana of one's youth. A certain just ruggedness required in order to endure through that experience. I'll leave it at that and leave Matt an opportunity to respond, presuming he's there and just shut his camera off.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? Good. Can you hear me now? Good. Can you hear me now? Good. Man, that was an era. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. It was like that was like the Jared era too.
Yeah, that's right.
That's like it's like a whole thing.
Yeah. Boy, were we duped.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Montana of your youth. Me and Ross went.
Great. Yeah, honestly,
DuPage.
Yeah,
the Wild West. Our cable
Wild
went
West.
out afternoon.
What do we do? No, honestly, this. I guess the landscape I'll admit I do struggle with. Yeah, just because like there wasn't like an obvious thing that stuck out. I mean, there was my grandparents lived like their house backed up to some woods, and like there's some fun memories of like putzing around back there. Yeah, like I really and just in general, I think my brother and I did not have a lot of shared interests. We're both kind of like, well, I guess at the time I was very much like kind of into sports, and that was my thing. I think in our adult life, we've both kind of adopted more of a jack of all trades thing. It's not like, yep, I'm a hunter, I'm a fisherman, I'm a golfer, I'm a whatever. It was, yeah, I mean, I dabble in beer brewing, I dabble in this, I rock climbed for a while, but now I don't really. And I think my brother's kind of always been that way, just kind of a dabbler and, does a variety of things. And those just didn't overlap much. So, yeah, honestly, this is a little bit of a tricky one to pin down. Not that there aren't like fun memories of childhood.
Well, why don't you just tell the story about the boat in an island? That's a funny, yeah.
Yeah, well, honestly, if there's one if there's one Montana, it's a small retention pond in our neighborhood. But so there were friends of my brother's, but I was kind of hanging out with them and I would hang out with them a decent amount, I guess. But we were playing poker on this island in this retention pond. We kind of had that like in our idea. That was our like island casino thing, whatever, which amounted to like 5 awkward teenagers playing poker, drinking Mr. Pibb on an island. and someone apparently called the police on us. And when the police officer, so we saw him kind of like hanging around by the lake. So we row back, and the police officer just asks us, "Do you guys know how to read?" Because there was a sign there. It was kind of buried in weeds, whatever. So he asked us, "Do we know how to read?" And we weren't really sure how to answer because there was one guy among us who was a foreign exchange student and like legitimately might not have known how to read. So no tickets, no fines. We did have to pack up our canoe and prove that we didn't have alcohol in our cooler thing we brought. Kind of a funny back end of that story. So there was as we were walking our canoe out, escorted by the police, there was a classmate of mine, or I guess, a year older. He's a year older than me. He was on the football team, so I knew him from there. And he was literally smoking a cigarette, underage, smoking a cigarette on a skateboard, and he was like not confronted at all by the police. But he's like guys like playing cards on an island with a canoe. But anyway, so he saw this and was, and he knew which neighbors called the police. Anyway, I don't know. A few days later at football practice, we happened to be lined up against each other. And so we're lined up in our 3-point stance, and before the ball snapped, he's like, "Hey, Schultz, you know those people who called the cops on you for canoeing?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I egged their house for you." And then the ball was and then the ball was snapped. We hit each other, and that was the end of the conversation. But it was just like, thanks? Like, what do you? But anyway. Funny story,
funny.
But yeah, I would say I don't know that we had a clear-cut Montana, but maybe that was as close as we got.
Did the cop, was he nicer after he realized you weren't drinking?
Yeah, I think he made a kind of a smart aleck comment about like someone who didn't have anything better to do called me to address this problem. Okay. He was a little bit of a smart aleck at first. I don't know what his deal was, but yeah, eventually he was kind of like, "Yeah, I don't know why I'm doing this." Someone apparently thought this was a problem.
Okay. So the story, what, man, I hate hosting. These episodes. The film opens with Norman's dad's exhortation to tell our family's story. And he says, "One day when you're ready, Norman, I hope that you will tell our family story. Only then will you understand." And the trajectory of the story, of course, there is something like that's, maybe you could almost say like vaguely postmodern about it, in the sense that there is no like happy ending. I don't know if you necessarily say there's a happy ending in like the traditional sense of the term, but I still find myself like watching it, despite there not being a happy ending, if you will. There is still a certain like sort of way that the story like sort of feeds your soul. What role have you guys observed that in your own lives, and the stories that you've received in your family, and the stories that you want to tell in your family? What role? How would you describe the utility of storytelling? What are specific stories that had some sort of impact on you with your family?
Yeah, sorry guys.
Yeah, look at there.
So it's time for me to do my job. Mike, I'm like 80% sure of what you just asked. I need you to just clear it up a little bit.
Okay.
You podcast it a little bit clear, scared and unclear.
Yeah. So Norman's dad. I mean, he the whole impetus for the film. The film is, I think, it's not told in a way from. It's not told in the present tense. The entire movie is looking back on the past, right? There's this regular voiceover,
right,
which indicates that there's another character in the story, which is Norman in present day, who is, threading together his memory and his interpretation of these events. And despite the fact that the story does not have a happy ending, Norman's father still exhorts him to tell the story. He doesn't exhort him to tell it in a way that makes Paul look good or anything like that. It's or to write the story in order to get the book published, right? It's telling the story for the sake of telling the story. As far as it relates to families, especially, and your own personal history, what is the value in its own right of storytelling? Maybe there's no value. I know we're not going to come to that answer, of course not. But just being fair, being unbiased, it's it's relevant. So I actually I just emailed today a letter to the editor for the Freeburg Tribune, the same local newspaper who published my scathing criticism of revoking the midget. Although, as I indicated, my feelings became slightly different after going to a football game and seeing it. No, but the article was about George Rogers Clark, and George Rogers being William Clark's older brother. And I know I bragged about this to you guys before, how George Rogers Clark was really critical in securing this region, which was the West, the hub of the Western frontier for the United States during the American Revolution, specifically being Fort Kaskaskia, which is about 40 miles south, Cahokia, and Vincennes, Indiana, on the other, directly opposite on the other side in Indiana. But anyway, I enjoyed reading this story in the Tribune, and I knew basically everything before. In their letter to the editor was motivated because they referred to Father Jabot. Remember me mentioning Father Jabot's role in the story? But he was just priest. And they referred him several times. And it wasn't, I was just saying like, oh, it's the priest, that's Father Jabot from Jabot Catholic High School. Anyway, the trajectory of the letter together was that my parents, thankfully, most Sundays or most weekends, typically on a Sunday after Mass, we would go to some sort of local, natural, or historical sites and learn these little bit more obscure histories. And, how much of it was their own sort of storytelling, sort of throwing things together, or me sort of making it my own. But I wrote this letter together, particularly in our current national waters where people argue about what our national story is, whether it's cast in a certain saintly glow or it's cast in this, dark glow.
Bigoted, whatever. Yeah.
And, when you, like my parents fortunately did, when you immerse yourself in real, a little bit more tactile history, I always enjoy that kind of history more, the George Rogers Clark history more than like Washington, D.C. history, because like this is our area. This is our home. This is where we came from. Yeah. So there's, I guess, a brief, small example for me, the importance of personal story in this particular way.
Gosh, I mean, stories are just so fundamental to, there's not a single human culture that doesn't tell stories, right? Like humans can't live without that. Well, I guess maybe one anecdote, just so being in seminary, people asked over and over again. It was just kind of regular conversation about like asking you to tell your story, right? Whether it's in seminary, it's usually like, oh, like how'd you end up in the seminary? Like, what's your vocation story, right? And you'd tell that to guys in the seminary who you're trying to get to know. You would tell that to people in the parish who are genuinely curious about like, why is this person going to, becoming a priest, whatever. So you get really good at telling your story, and like you get a really good sense of what your story is. and just having to tell it, tell the 2-minute version, the 4-minute version, the 12-minute version, and then telling it to the people who you know really well, telling it to the people who you don't know at all, telling it to the people who have no idea what a priest is, So you have to like grapple with your story in all these different angles and ways. But I felt like I was living something, not that I don't live that anymore, but I'm also not asked to give my story at all anymore, like you might tell a story here or there, but I remember I would ask people, and maybe I was just a weirdo, but like after I left seminary, if I was just at like a young adult event and I was meeting people, I'd be like, "Hey, so what's your story? Like, what brings you to this bar in Naperville, right?" And people people had no idea how to answer it. There are some people who are like so visibly uncomfortable, they would just be like, I don't know, like, what's your story? They would just have to ask me to say my, like, so they know what to say, I guess, and I'm sure, to some degree, maybe it's just kind of a weird question, and maybe that's not a good, but at the same time, I don't know, it's open-ended, allows people to share what they want and not share what they don't want, and allows you to get to know people quick. But yeah, I think there is something really valuable to knowing your personal story. Like, where do you fit in with like all these other things around you? Because that can be really disorienting. And I'm very grateful that like my family has like several like clear stories and these kind of interesting trajectories that I am looking forward to sharing with my kids. And that is something that I'm hopeful will be like maybe a shared interest with me and my brother going forward. Because I know Thomas is very good about learning family stories. Like he visits like family cemeteries, just like kind of like several generations back, like people we've either barely met or never met. And I know he's read some like kind of local history things like you're talking about, Mike. There's one about, I guess he traced it back to some degree that like my great grandfather, it was either him or his father came down from Michigan because there was this big coal mine strike. And he was likely with this group of Slovenian immigrants from this random town in Michigan who all came down to Chicago because the town basically got obliterated by the strike. Anyway, so it's this kind of like wild event that ended up bringing my family to Chicago, where that's where all this other stuff kind of became possible, right? My grandparents met each other. So anyway, he's read that book. He's read a few other things, and maybe that'll be the new Montana for me and my brother, or maybe the first Montana. But
like I've heard, Bishop Barron talks about like the ego drama versus the theodrama. So this idea that you're not trying to create your own story. You're trying to find your role in God's story, and how that's actually much more interesting and fun and adventurous. But I feel like it's kind of the same thing with family, but also place. You're part of a story, So like, I feel like we, in a very like individualistic culture, push, you write your own story. It's like to a certain extent, sure, but it's also like that's just really naive in a lot of ways because like your story is part of a much bigger story. I feel like just to think about like family type stories is like all us here, but anybody there's hard questions and decisions that have to be made in life, right? So, or Matt, like, man, do we stay here or move to a different house? Like, there's always like very like tangible in the moment questions that are somehow going to make an impact 50, 100 years in the future, So I feel like it's interesting to like think about our grandparents or great grandparents making the same, it sounds kind of unromantic, but just like hard, like life decisions and how that impacts us now. So I feel like recognizing that you're part of something bigger and like and in this case, a family. But I feel like the Montana of our youth, like naming a state, I feel like the place also plays a really big part in that. So I don't know, that's a little bit rambling, but I don't know if this makes sense to connect it or not, but like it makes me think of two things. Like when somebody dies, like how many stories get shared. I don't know if you guys have a similar experience, but I can just remember after my grandma passed away, just like sitting down and just so many stories getting shared about her and my grandpa and like all these things, you know. And then also like if somebody, and maybe death is kind of part of the movie, but like when somebody dies, not only stories getting shared, but how much people appreciate babies, like at a funeral. I don't know if
For
you've ever
sure.
noticed that.
No,
Like,
that's
if
the thing.
noticed it, like if somebody dies, people just want to see the babies, and I feel like it's like an unconscious like recognition. They're like, yeah, life is still like the world is still moving forward. You know, people are new life is literally still coming into the world, and like they're part of the same story. I don't know. I feel like it's very important to know your family's story because like to try to separate yourself from that just seems so isolating and lonely.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you brought up there, Matt, of what's your story as it relates to seminary. I mean, there's something intuitive to that. Seminary is this unique thing where it's particularly in our modern society where people can just sort of melt into one place or another.
Sure.
Seminary is a unique thing. Like it's clear it required, or a religious community for women, it's clear it required a clear decision.
Yeah.
And I think that's a unique thing today. Obviously, a lot of things require a distinct decision, being an entrepreneur, of course, but even marriage sort of has, in the cultural sense, has complications, that question, because
Sure.
sometimes people, it's not as much of a distinct decision, without wading into that. But I do like, that you asked people that, and I can also imagine and sympathize like why one would feel uncomfortable with that question. I think there's a sense of, if someone asked me that at a bar who I didn't really know or acquaintances, I might feel like a certain like nakedness. I might feel I might hear something like, not what's my story, but what decisions are you responsible for? This sounds like something
Sure.
Jordan Peterson is saying. And it like makes you go like, huh. And it's like that other part of yourself that, just wants to move with the crowd. Like, oh no, I don't want you to look at me. I just want to be a part of the masses. So I think that is a good question. I think it is exposing. And I think to be like fair to humanity is like, you do move with the masses in a part of your life, but so long, and a lot of people, don't necessarily have this huge arc to their life, but hopefully
Sure.
you can still point to a number of events where your agency was really distinct and you did do the hard thing because that was the right thing. I think that's the important thing. I had made in the notes of Jordan Peterson's self-authorship program, and I actually started doing it since we started prepping this podcast, kind of in light of that. And so what you're supposed to do, have you guys done it by chance?
Mm-mm.
So what you're supposed to do is, at least at first, is you break your life. And I'm sure you guys have heard like the facts, like for college students who do it or college freshmen who do it, there's a 25% less college dropout rate for people who do it. But anyway, first thing you do is you break your life up into 7 epochs. I'll just go ahead and share what the epochs were for me. And I tweaked them a little bit after thinking, but I came up with early childhood. So first memories until fourth grade in grade school. Then late childhood, which I marked down is fifth grade through eighth grade. Although I'm sort of thinking maybe I should tweak that to freshman in high school, fifth grade to freshman in high school. That those sort of seem to go together. Then high school, as I had it laid out before. Then college / Bradley. Then grad school / South Bend. Then I have St. Louis / St. Charles. And then I have Columbia, where I'm currently at now. That sort of seems to cover a certain epoch. And then you're supposed to, within each of those epochs, identify 4 to 7 distinct experiences and describe the details of that experience. So yeah, I'm into sort of and they can be positive or negative for each of those things. So that's what I'm working on right now. Is there anything we can think of in the modern sense? You know, something. What's our crap session on modern life with respect to story?
Well, what I mean, I don't know. Are you looking for us to crap on like? I feel like social media, TikTok. The shorter the shorter the tidbit, the less of a story. I mean, how could you possibly have a story?
Yeah.
In whatever 180 characters or less, or in 10 seconds or less for different things like that. And it's just such a rapid fire of mini stories that you can't possibly let any of them grow on you,
Yeah.
And something I found really helpful, even though it's not like my story or a family story. So I've really, there's a handful of stories I'll tell the boys, like not like reading a book, just me telling the words of the story. And there's a few of them that, one in particular, Jack and the Beanstalk, I've really tried, I think I've gotten really good at it, like really good at telling the story. Such that I won't be off by more than like a dozen words, in how I tell it. But I also think it's a pretty good way of telling it. But I think just having that story on repeat for the boys, just to really let like kind of this, it is kind of an ancient story. There's so many stories similar to it as well. Like whether it's like a Jacob's Ladder type of thing or, Tower of Babel, or like, I'm sure there are other myths involving like going up to the skies to like seek some sort of treasure, right? Yeah. Anyway, I think just immersing children in good stories, which is why I don't like a lot of kids' books. Like, not that there's anything bad with like, oh, here's some underwater sea creature facts, Sure, that's valuable in some sense, but a lot of kids' books just don't have any story. It's just kind of like goofy, senseless rhymes and things that vaguely revolve around bedtime, maybe, like that's such a it's such a large bulk of children's books. And it's like, I don't know. I'd rather like tell my kids a story and let them really wrap their minds around the world that way. I don't know if we're looking for a pivot, but I really want to talk about the father's role in like in the hobby development stuff, because I think that's a really cool part of this movie that's something Claire and I talked about a lot too. I don't know if you guys had any other thoughts on the story version side of things, but so in this movie in particular, I just really love how the father is depicted as kind of, and Norman kind of jokes about like his father's somewhat forceful way of teaching his sons how to fish, right? There was one line that was something like, a man should be ashamed to have caught a fish when he didn't know how to catch it, or something like that. Like, you really need to learn how to fish. Otherwise, what in the hell are you doing catching fish? right? They used a metronome to practice like the cadence of like the fly fishing casting rhythm. And it's like seemed rather regimented about that. There's this very, not exactly militaristic, but very like intense teaching of the father to his sons on fly fishing. But it's like about 10 years after this movie was made, I don't know that there would any movie that featured a father meticulously teaching his sons a hobby was universally depicted as either the tyrannical father who forces his son to deny his true self,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like the whole High School Musical, I just want to sing, and oh, you're gonna play basketball, whatever. Or just like a super nerdy dad who just doesn't get it and likes, whatever, likes tinkering with whatever. Like I can't think of a single movie, maybe besides this one, where like the father teaches a hobby meticulously in a way that's meaningful and good. But I feel like that happens a lot more than like fathers are like ruthlessly forcing their kids to do sports or things,
Yeah.
or like, I don't know. But imagine, right? So just want you to imagine this movie. If the father was wishy-washy about fishing and each boy went on to do their own little thing because self-expression and individualism, whatever, right? Now there's no common ground. Paul isn't tethered to any sort of reality, right? Even though he leaves a double life in the movie, at least there's a life vest or like something he can grab onto, even though he tragically doesn't take it, right? Norman probably goes on to, Norman just is undoubtedly emboldened by his brother, right? I think Paul's courage and I don't know, I suppose you could call it recklessness, certainly emboldens Norman or seems to embolden Norman at different scenes in the movie. So Norman doesn't get courageous and never dates Jess, and he ends up a miserable bum who hates his life and hates his family, all because his dad was wishy-washy about fishing. Maybe that doesn't play out exactly that way, but I could see it certainly playing out that way. And I think there is something really meaningful about the father's role in this movie in kind of developing this shared hobby amongst his sons, because now there is this vessel of communion that they have for the rest of their lives, right? Like, what greater gift could you give your son than a vessel of communion with each other? Not that there is zero regard for the child's interest, right? Paul and Norman kind of go their separate ways, right? Paul's kind of the hotshot journalist, hobnobbing with people, kind of doing his thing, and Norman's a little more academic, reserved. I just found that to be an inspiring thing and something you don't really see in movies very often, especially not after. I mean, not long after this movie, I don't think there would be a single depiction of a father figure like this,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if we did think hard enough, but certainly the knee jerk reaction, seems that way. Yeah, I mean, my dad remarked quite a bit when we were growing up, especially just how important. I mean, yeah, I think this falls under the same bucket of shared hobbies, just by practical implication. My dad did remark a lot growing up how important it was for him to do things with us kids, specifically. Because he says when he was growing up, his parents, not just his parents, like all the kids' parents, they didn't like play with their kids. They didn't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was very important to my dad to play catch with us and take us on bike rides and things like that. I think even just talking through that out loud, I know we've talked about this on the Speech Guys before, but so much of relationship is just simply, of course, just being present, like not trying. You don't have to come up with the super wise thing to say. It's mostly just being present.
Ross, I feel like maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems like the hunt. There seems to be a lot of cool stories around hunting, like with you and your family, is like almost like a rite of passage type of thing. and especially just hearing you. I think you and Rob both talking about your nephew John and just some of like his kind of early experiences, and yeah, like that's just a really cool gift to give a kid, like those stories and those experiences. And
maybe it's providential. Like, I feel like I was kind of thinking about hunting multiple times in the last hour. Like, we kind of started off talking about these endurance sports that Mike and his brother do. And then Matt, you kind of commented like the dad taught them fishing in this kind of like hard way, but this kind of idea of like hard things done together. And I actually thought about hunting as that, not in the sense that it's physically hard, but like it's kind of hard to kill something. It's not hard in those sense. It's not like a childlike thing to do. I mean, yeah, it's hard. You have to get up early and sit for a couple like a long time, and it's boring at times, and blah blah blah. But like, or cold, but just like it's hard to kill an animal. But I feel like for me, and my brother, like that was definitely a not a like a formal rite of passage, but I feel like we started hunting in like a very formative ages. You know, I was probably 10 or 12, and he was 12 or 14. And that's something we really like share and do together now. So I'm trying to think of like the best way to put it in here. But as far as actually killing an animal, there is something just very serious about that. You know, you got to be ready to do it. I remember the story. I've told you probably before in the podcast. Like, I remember the story. Oh, man, he's going to hate that I say this, but a couple years ago, I took John, my nephew, started hunting, and he was finally old enough to go on it, but not literally on his own. He had an adult with him, but like to actually hunt and not just sit with the hunter. And he saw like nothing all weekend. And Thomas sat with me for a little while, and I mean, probably not at all related, but around dark, it's like, you know, shooting time is over, so I'm not gonna shoot anything at this point. So he threw an apple out the window, and I let him blow on the deer call a little bit just because I wanted him to have like a fun experience with it. It was too dark to shoot, but like, yeah, a small buck kind of came running by the blind. And honestly, it was probably just random that, with everything that had happened, but we really tried to build it up for Thomas. Like, hey, you called, you know, you blew the deer call and that deer came in, to try to make it kind of fun and exciting for him. And when we got back in to their house, we were talking about it, and John, my nephew, started like tearing up a little bit because he was mad that Thomas had called a deer. Thomas had all this attention around him when he had hunted all weekend and hadn't seen anything. Yeah. And I remember I pulled Rob aside, and I told him, I was like, I don't know if I should like talk to him and like comfort him, or just like literally just smack him in the face and be like, dude, you got to grow up. If you're going to be big enough to do this, like, you can't act like that, you know, with the solemnness of killing something. So anyway, that's kind of a weird story, but, and then, yeah, Thomas has actually expressed interest a lot the last couple months. He keeps saying, I want to go hunting. Like, he wants to kill a deer now. He says that a lot. And I've made it super clear, like, you're not ready to do it, because like, when you show me that like you're mature, you can handle responsibility, and like you're willing to go out and sit in the morning when it's cold, when it's dark, like I need to see that you're serious about it before I'm going to ever let you do it, you know?
So wait, can I ask, what did you do with John then? Did you smack him, or did you put your hand on his shoulder?
We didn't hit him. But I do, it wasn't a hand on his shoulder. I feel like it was more of a like, hey man, just a direct, like, if you're going to be big enough to hunt, like, you can't act like that.
Yeah.
I have one thought. This is kind of a tangent. So, talking about smacking someone in the face, I know someone, she's older, and I said this to Mike like 4 years ago, just talking about like a family story and a human story, that I thought it might be interesting if we stopped doing speeches and just started interviewing old people and asking them their stories. And Mike was like,
shut up, Ross.
Mike pretty much was like, no, we're not doing that. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Back to speeches. I have a patient that, man, I just feel so bad for her. She is 80 some years old. She has an incomplete spinal cord injury, just is going through all these problems. Like, life is literally so hard for her. And she just found out she has cancer. And I was just kind of like, what the? I mean, gosh, it just sucks. But anyway, I actually said a prayer with her today in the clinic, which I've only done like a couple times ever. But then she's actually got like a really cool life story. Like she was married to a guy. They lived in Hawaii forever because like that's where they were stationed. And she was a music teacher and she knows so much about like art and music and like movie. Like she's like a really interesting person to talk to. I feel like it's like the epitome of like the modern culture we talked about earlier, maybe pooping on it a little bit, but like this idea that old people have no value, like from someone looking in, it's like she can't walk, she can't move, she has cancer, like all the, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like she just has such a cool story, and like to let her share her story seems just like a really powerful thing. But there's not a lot of like avenues to do that, if that makes sense. Like a lot of people just aren't interested in asking someone their story. Back to what you did earlier, Matt. Most people are like, well, I'll interact with you how I'm supposed to in this certain context and situation, and then you're gone. You know, you're another person I saw that day.
Hank, we could do final bell, but it can be a long final bell.
No, we're not there yet, Mike.
What? I said long.
It's always my job to tell you to wake up.
I said you could do a long.
What's your idea for a long final bell?
We're so close to it, though. We're always so close.
What's your idea for final bell? And Ross, where do you want to go before the final bell?
I know where I want to go.
Okay.
I don't.
Good. Tell us.
The only one I know, the only one I have is too heavy. It's what haunts you.
Exactly. It's not a final bell question. That's where we need to go now. We are so close. I literally was going to say, I am haunted by waters. Like, what are we haunted by? That, I think, is the final question. But, Mike, we need you for this, man. What haunts you? You can't podcast scared. So to kind of, this is probably more important, but like to think about haunted by waters, I'll be totally honest, right? I didn't know I was going to cast tonight, so I didn't watch the movie again. So it's been a little while since I've seen it. But I'm picturing him at the end of the movie, out there fishing. And so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this. Is there a lack, like when he says I'm haunted by waters, it seems like these like unresolved things from his past. Would that be fair to say? And I have a thought to follow up. So it's more of a yes or no, but like, so it seems, and again, push back against if I'm missing the artistic part of the movie, but like, it almost seems like when I think about it, then is it missing the component of like providence and God's ability to work through bad or imperfect things. So like, I think that makes sense enough for you guys at least.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'll let Matt give his 2 cents on that point.
No, I'm not going to podcast scared. He misses it. The movie missed it. They don't have it.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Well, Robert Redford's agnostic. What would you expect?
So I'm right. I got it.
and I'm sure Norman Maclean was too, probably by the sounds of it.
Yeah, probably. I'm haunted by waters. Did you say Ron or Norm or Paul?
Ron. I said Paul, but he said Ron.
Is Ron Maclean? Isn't that like Bruce Willis's character? Who's Ron Maclean?
Well, Die Hard is Maclean.
Isn't that? I was going to say that's I was going to say that's Bruce Willis.
He doesn't look like a Ron. Right? It's John Maclean. It's not Ron.
Oh, John. You're right. That's John Maclean.
Is it Ron Burgundy? Okay, so Matt. Yeah.
Anyway. All right.
No, I'll push slightly more. It seems the more I'm talking, it seems like they missed that point.
I think they leave it very vague at the end, to the point where I'm truly not sure what he means by "I am haunted by waters." Like, I could see, like, the word haunted makes it sound like it's this negative force in his life, but I think there is a sense of the word haunting that could just be, it's like this thing that, like, this that conjures a presence of some sort, right? Whether it's good, bad, or whether it's memories, or just this complex milieu of, like, what could I have done differently for my brother Paul, right? Or what is it about the water and fishing that, like, just stirs my soul to this, like, deep depth? And like, he brings up some of the lines his dad mentions that, I mean, his dad certainly comes at it from a Christian perspective, even if Norman may or may not, right? Or Robert Redford may or may not, right? So, um, yeah, I guess there's a lot of ambiguity there, which I think is maybe intentional, just to, yeah, kind of allow it to sit with the viewer and just kind of stir this sort of contemplative discussion on it. Like, I do see what you're saying, Ross, in that, like, I don't know. I guess there is this sort of unresolved healing, but I don't know that providence means everything's resolved as much as it means God is behind the things that aren't resolved.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's where I think there's still maybe room for providence here, if you're thinking about, like, the waters, the fishing, the landscape, Montana. All of that is part of this tapestry of the family story. And there's good parts, there's bad parts. And the river runs through it, right? The river runs through all of these bad parts and good parts. And somewhere God's in there, even if Norm, would acknowledge that or not, as an old man or young man or what have you.
So, like, at the end of the movie, is he haunted just by memories of the past? Like, there's such a powerful experience, or is he haunted by the fact that he didn't help his brother?
I think it's both. I mean, the haunting, when you think of something being haunted, there's a sense of lack of resolution. And so I think it's a vague sort of gloom, not even necessarily gloom. Part of it can be gloom, but just his memories that hang over him. Yeah, I don't think it's anything more specific than that. And it feels, just to tie it back, it feels resonant because especially at our age, we're gonna call it mid-30s. We're gonna call it mid-30s, not late 30s. How dare you?
We're still young. Matt taught me what Snapchat was an hour and a half ago.
It feels resonant. Going back to the thing with Jordan Peterson, the self-authorship program, it's interesting. I've been spending, like, days with it, like, going back to this, going back to that, and yeah, you become more cognizant of the things that were distinctive, like a pinball machine, something that actually literally changes the direction of the ball. Yeah, and everyone has those things. And I guess maybe to sort of tie in, what you're saying there, providence, not providence. Yeah, I mean, Robert Redford, it's agnostic, of course, and Norman Maclean, you just get the vibe, probably is just based upon the trajectory of the story. But there is still something sacramental about the story and about the lighting of the film, right? It isn't a film of despair. It's not, even though everyone dies at the end except for Norman, it's not a story of despair. It's a story about like the message of the story is to love despite a lack of understanding. I mean, that's like I said at the very start, that is the ethos of Christianity, is to not love so long as you love for the sake of loving, right? Yeah, despite the fact that there's maybe not an explicit reference to sort of providence, I think the film and the story is cast in a way where it does sort of have that sort of tone to it, though. Yep. Okay, now we've earned final bell.
Yep. We are.
Final bell.
I think so. Ding, ding, ding.
All your strength, all your power, all your love.
It's 15. One more round. And there's no stopping this now. This is our round. Don't stop it now. To start, we don't stop. All your strength, all your power, all your love, everything you've got. This is your whole life, kid. Do it now.
Okay, final bell. Who's the hero of the movie and why?
I would say Paul, because it seems that he, albeit his kind of tragic death and unhappy ending, I feel like, not having seen the movie in a while, like he lived, his life impacted everyone, if that makes sense. Like how he lived his life had an impact on Norman, and like Matt said, later had Norman marry Jesse and all this stuff. Like I feel like Paul's life seemed to providentially move through all the others.
I was gonna say Paul, but I'm pretty sure the hero's the dad. Just kind of like this solid baseline figure, teaches the boys how to fish, right? Gives them this vessel of communion that kind of ties them both together the rest of their life. Yeah, I think the hero is Papa Maclean.
I mean, I have to agree with Matt. I think it's the dad. I mean, he exhorts Norman to tell the story. You know, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, did it actually fall?
If a river runs in Montana, but no one's there to tell the story, does the river run through it? A cool thing about because the last fishing expedition, that's where Paul catches that huge fish and he kind of goes underwater for a little bit for it. Like he's floating down the river and you think he's going to die there, going down the rapids or something. But as they're walking down, like the boys go down the steep rocky thing and start fishing, and the dad kind of just takes this little high path and he ends up not fishing at all. Right. I think it's just this kind of cool, like fatherly, like I must decrease, they must increase type of thing. I don't know that I noticed it at the time, but thinking back, that seems to, kind of a cool moment there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, it's been great. I think Matt is up next with Speeches by Brothers, and I mean, I think you've already got it picked as something from the Brothers Karamazov, right?
Did I?
Oh,
I don't know.
That's a vibe I got.
It's the vibe you got. No, I could see there being something from there, but we'll see. I don't know. We'll see where I go.
Whatever it is, you know where to find it. So, without further ado, thanks for drinking
and thinking
with us.
Hey, be safe out there. Cue the music, will ya? Oh, good show, boys.
Look toward the horizon. Up ahead you'll find a peace of mind, relief from the trying. I have burned a bridge, wrecked in a ditch, had to ask forgiveness. Dead ends come and go. look toward the horizon. Oh, there are stories to tell, the times we grew and the times we fell. Oh, I've been afraid some days, but the road will lead us to a better place. Road will lead us to a better place.